Welcome to US-based news channel. Explosions echoed in one of the key areas of the southeastern front. Operations have started at the intersection of highways stretching from the southern and eastern fronts to Russia. Russia's military logistics flow on the fronts can break out with a big problem at any moment. During the day, more than 20 Russian military equipment and more than 800 Russian soldiers were neutralized. Russia's ground operation power is starting to drop drastically. In a remarkable move, Russian President Vladimir Putin ordered Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu for a while to ceasefire on all lines of contact in Ukraine. It has been reported that Turkey has started to provide electronic warfare systems to combat missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles after aiding military equipment for Ukraine. War has now become critical for armies and countries. A first in war. A 2-day ceasefire order came from the President of Russia. In the course of the war, operations began to increase, especially on certain fronts. One of the fronts where these operations are increased is the Southeast Front. This region also has a share in the increase of mutual attacks both in the east and in the south. As a result of the increased operations on this front in recent days, it has been reported that more than 300 Russian soldiers were neutralized even in a short time. Moreover, while attacks were carried out with HIMARS missile systems in some regions, important Russian command points were hit in some regions. As a result of hitting these military points, many Russian soldiers were neutralized and the strategic advance of the Ukrainian army was once again seen. One of the most important regions on this Zaporizhia front, which connects two important fronts, is Melitopol. According to the breaking news, explosion sounds occurred in this region. According to the authorities in the region, strong explosions took place at night and Russian air defense systems were activated. Fact that the Russian army, dealing with defense inadequacies, is subjected to these attacks at night and suddenly, causes it to have more difficulty in preventing attacks. In addition, it is known that this region has a critical importance for the countries due to its location. As it is known, this area is located at the intersection of two important highways. In fact, these two highways reach both critical fronts in Ukraine and Russia. Due to this feature, it is of critical importance for the provision of military shipment flows. If this region, which is one of the important land logistics points, is dominated, the military supply flow of the Russian army will be interrupted. This will make it very difficult for him to achieve success in operations and will be able to determine the course of the war. Especially in recent days, many regions are being taken back due to the increasing operations of the Ukrainian armed forces. This situation will cause the Russian soldiers to face serious problems and to break out important military problems. This situation will determine the course of the war to a large extent. On the one hand, Russia continues to lose military resources on the fronts. General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine announced the one-day combat losses of the Russian Federation. Ukrainian forces destroyed 2 drones, 3 tanks, 2 armored combat vehicles, 12 artillery systems, 2 multiple launch rocket systems, 1 aircraft and 1 helicopter of the Russian troops. It was also announced that Ukraine neutralized 810 Russian soldiers in just one day. These troop and equipment losses begin to significantly reduce Russia's operational power in the war. Moreover, since this situation has been going on for a long time, it is now difficult to compensate for these losses. In addition, it is seen that Russia has lost at least 400 to 500 soldiers during the day and experienced a shortage of dozens of military equipment. If this situation continues in this way, Russia will no longer have a chance for war. On the contrary, it will have to make progress with different decisions about the war, as it is losing more and more every day. Even this time, a remarkable statement came from Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin instructed Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu to ceasefire on the entire line of contact in Ukraine, from 12 o'clock on the 6th of January to 2400 hours on the 7th of January. Moscow Patriarch Kirill, who openly approved of Russia's war against Ukraine on January 5, stated that for some reason he called for a Christmas truce for both sides. This 2-day truce for Christmas will be the first in the war in Ukraine since February. There was also a statement from Ukraine in this regard. Mikhailo Podolyak, chief advisor to the Office of the President of Ukraine, stated that a temporary ceasefire could begin with the departure of Russian troops from Ukrainian territory. He stated that this was just for propaganda. He also emphasized that Russia is trying every possible way to reduce the intensity of the war and the intensity of the attacks against the logistics centers. Reminding Russia's attacks, Podolyak stated that for this reason, it is necessary not to respond to the manipulative attempts of the Russian leadership. On the other hand, various military supports to Ukraine are continued by increasing. This time, the news of aid came from Turkey. First of all, Turkey held talks with the two countries, then announced the news of aid to Ukraine. He reported that he had sent dozens of armored combat vehicles and dozens of unmanned aerial vehicles to Ukraine. Moreover, each of these military equipment is of critical importance for countries. After these aids, Turkey announced that it will also provide electronic warfare systems for Ukraine to combat cruise missiles and unmanned aerial vehicles. According to the statements, Turkey supplies electronic countermeasure systems for Ukraine to protect itself against air attacks. According to some sources, Turkey handed over systems for Ukraine alongside other military resources. Moreover, it has been reported that these systems have never been seen on Ukrainian soil so far. It was stated that these systems reached a range of up to 70 kilometers. At the same time, along with these fixed electronic warfare systems, electronic warfare modules for Bayraktar TB2 unmanned aerial vehicles supplied from Turkey were also reported. These moves show the country's support for Kiev. We can say that although Turkey is on good terms with the two countries and does not impose sanctions on Russia, it shows its true side in the war with the support it provides to Ukraine. However, relations with countries will become even more important in the future. Although Russia is aware of these aids, it does not want to risk its relations with the country. Reason for this may be that he fears the deterioration of diplomatic and economic relations between the two countries. Russia, which is already at odds with many countries, will have to face bigger military resource and economic problems if it confronts more countries. This will make it even more difficult to continue the war. In the long run, the steps and decisions taken by countries regarding the war will be of much more critical importance. For these reasons, the steps to be taken and the decisions to be made must be made in a strategic direction. Otherwise, it will become much more difficult to compensate for the losses. Especially for Russia, there is no margin for error. If Russia's strategic mistakes continue and Ukraine's operations increase, the war will now proceed entirely in Ukraine's favor. This will cause Russia to withdraw from the war with great defeats and losses. In these days when the violence of the war has increased considerably, each move is more important than the previous one. We'll see what happens in the next few days. We have reached the end of another video. You can support us by liking the video. You can easily follow new videos by subscribing. I wish you all a war-free day. See you.